Doctor. Welcome to DYW Newsscape with me, your host, Aidan. And today I'm here with the one, the only, fabulous. What's your name today?
My name is Johnathan Goodwin.
I'm here with Johnathan Goodwin to talk about how to get into his profession of show business and being a daredevil. Hello, and how are you today, Johnathan?
I'm really good, thank you, Aidan. I'm just waking up. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, so I've got my coffee. It's early in the morning here. I know it's later in the afternoon for you, but I'm happy to be here and happy to help you.
Can you please tell the viewers what time it is with you just now?
It is just past 10 o'clock in the morning.
And here it is just past 6 o'clock in the evening. Thank you for giving up your time to support DYW and to help me and others show people how to get into your profession and tips on how to cope during lockdown. So, Johnathan, what is your profession and how would many people know you?
Well, I'm a stunt performer and an escape artist, and in the UK, I've done lots of different theatre shows and tours, as well as television shows as well. Most recently, probably in the UK, was Britain's Got Talent. I was a finalist in that show in 2019.
And amazing a finalist you was.
Oh, well, thank you.
How did you get into your sector of work?
So I read a book about Houdini when I was 7 years old, and I guess like any kid, I was fascinated with, the character of a superhero. The thing that was different to me about Houdini was that he was real. He really did the things that I read about. And once I realized that you could do that for a job, I never really wanted to do anything else. Mm-hmm. So I practiced, even from that young age, I would, I'd practice. I'd get my dad to sort of tie me up and see if I could get out. Excuse me, coughing. And, I would take locks apart to see how they worked and all of that sort of stuff. And I did that really quite obsessively from 7 to about the age of 14. And then I decided that maybe I wanted to be an actor. So I pursued that a little bit for a while. I did my degree in drama and theatre at Middlesex University in London. And that degree put me off acting as a job. And I think the reason that it did was because I like being creative, and that's the thing that I like most about my job, is that I get to come up with an idea and then make it happen, and those are skills that apply to all manner of different jobs and careers. But that was important to me. And the thing about an actor is, even though people think it's creative, it isn't really, because you have somebody telling you what to say, the writer, and you have someone telling you how to say it and where to stand and what to do, the director. And so some of those creative outlets are taken away from you. And basically what an actor has to do is what they're told. And once I realized that, I thought, well, maybe there's another job that I can do. And I, by coincidence, I became friends with a guy in the UK who's quite famous now. His name's Darren Brown. And Darren, he was living in Bristol at the time, but he would come and stay with me while he made his TV shows. So we became really good friends, and I started to work on some of his TV shows and other TV shows that the company that he worked for made. And then they made a show with an escape artist. It was an American escape artist, and I didn't think it was very good. And I was a cocky 21-year-old at the time, and I emailed the executive producer of the show, and I told him that I thought his show wasn't very good, which was very cheeky of me. but I also told him how I would make it different, what I would do to if I was going to make it different. And he said, well, film something, show me. And so I did. And then all of a sudden he gave me a spot in a TV show, and the rest is history. I've been doing that stuff for nearly 20 years.
Wow. What sparked you to realize you wanted to do your job as a job?
I think, like I said, I think the thing that I like most about it is that I get to be entirely creative. You know, I have an idea, and then my job is really to manifest that. And so it's always different, you know, because there's always a different challenge, and I have to know so many different aspects of different things. You know, when I was probably 9 or 10, I wrote a letter to a guy who was a very famous stunt coordinator, and he said to me, he didn't write back to me. He called me, and I was like, it was actually kind of a similar situation in that there was me being this young kid and him being a very experienced stunt coordinator. And he called me up, and I had a 45-minute conversation with him. And a few of the things that he said to me in that call have stayed with me forever. And one of the things is, he said, if you want to be really good at your job, you can do stunts with anything. Okay. And so if you want to be really good at your job, you have to know how everything works. And so to that end, I've just spent most of my life learning about the way the world works, engineering, biomechanics, you know, all kinds of different things that all dovetail into me being, you know, good at what I do, so that I can create those things. And the second thing that he said to me, which I think is also really good advice and applicable as general life advice as well. He said, if somebody ever asks you, can you do something, say yes, and then worry about it. And I think that's really good advice, because what it means is a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to do this because I'm not ready for it yet. You know, I've got to get better, and I've got to have the right, you know, I've got to have experience, or this, that, and the other. But really, you only get experience by doing things. And sometimes it's good to take a little leap and say, yes, I can do this. I believe in myself. And actually, you'll probably surprise yourself. So there you go.
How old were you when you first experienced anything relating to show business and being a daredevil?
I mean, I was probably 8 or 9, is the truth. I was really young. And actually, probably my very first sort of experience of performing was much younger than that. I wrote I've got 2 older sisters, and my eldest sister she's 10 years older than me, so she was much older than me, and she had to perform a funny monologue, a poem, at secondary school, and I was maybe 4, and I helped her learn her poem and learned it myself by accident. I wasn't trying to learn it; it just went in, and I could do the accent. It's a poem by an actor who you probably won't know. His name was Stanley Holloway, and he was from Yorkshire. And so I would do the accent, and people thought it was very funny. And so they would stand me on a chair at 4 and make me perform and make me say this funny poem. And I think that was probably the beginning for me of like, oh, I quite like this. You know, everybody's looking at me, and I can have the attention not just of kids my age, but adults as well who think that this is cool. So that was kind of probably my beginning.
Did you have any jobs before you went into the show business world? And if so, how did you make the transfer?
Do you know what? I didn't. I've always done what I do, and I think that's probably because I started so young, so that by the time there was a job opportunity, but by the time I was the age that really I could be doing work, I was already earning money doing what I do. So no, I mean, once I have had a proper job, which was when I was at university, and I lasted about 3 months. I was a barista in a posh cake shop in North London, and I didn't like it, so I stopped.
So if a young person came to you and said, "Hey, Johnathan, how do I get into show business?" What advice would you give them?
Well, I think really show business is a very broad term, and I think it really depends on, and probably means different things to different people. I think it really depends on what your skill is, what you want to achieve. You know, do you want to be a singer, a comedian, an actor? Do you want to do what I do and be, a stunt performer? Because there's different avenues to pursue depending on what it is that you're specifically good at. But in broad terms, I would say start. You're never too young to start. Don't wait. Begin. The road of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, and so practice whatever it is that's your thing. Just practice, and don't just practice in your bedroom. If you're a performer, then a good portion of your skill is about doing that for people. And if you could be the best singer in the world, but if you're only used to looking at yourself in a mirror practicing, then all of a sudden when you do get in front of people, it's a very, very different thing. So I would say practice performing as much as you practice your skill, and then I would try and meet people that are already doing the thing that you want to do. Be a bit pushy. Nobody ever got anywhere by sitting on their hands. And the truth is, nobody can help you any less than they are right now if you're just sitting in your bedroom, wishing and hoping to be successful. They call it show business for a reason. There is the performance side of it, but actually most of this industry is about hustling. It's about meeting people. It's about getting connections. It's about making friends, actually. And so those are all skills to practice and get good at. Now, that's also not something that you should wait for. Just, practice being cool, being nice, being somebody that you would want to hang out with, because ultimately that's what show business is about. It's about being a personality that people want to pay to spend time with. Whatever it is that you're doing, at the core of it, people need to like you, and so all of those social skills and those kind of connections are really important to practice just as much as whatever skill you're specifically wanting to pursue.
With so many industries closed just now, how would you suggest to a young person to develop their skills while at home?
Well, the thing about show business is that people that are in it and people that are supposed to be in it and good at it are hopefully naturally creative. And so when what we do in show business is shift and mold to whatever circumstances we are given. And so, if you look at what entertainment was 100 years ago, there was no cinema, really. There was no television. There was no internet. There was none of that. And what people in the entertainment industry have done is shifted and changed the way that we create whatever it is that we do for the medium and the circumstances that we're in. And so what I would suggest is don't wait. If you can't go to a theater or you can't perform in an environment that you were planning or thinking of, that's what I was going to do. Don't wait for that. Do it online. Find a way to create, a Zoom show or find a way to connect with people in an environment where you can do it online or in a remote way. Because honestly, those skills and being able to pivot and do something in a different direction are just as important as any of the other skills that you're going to have to develop to survive in the entertainment industry.
So for something like your acts you did on Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent, how many hours would you say it takes to learn one of them?
It's really difficult to give a specific amount of time, because in reality, I'll tell you the honest truth, that in the semi-finals of Britain's Got Talent, I performed a stunt where I had arrows firing at me from a crossbow, and I had never performed it before the time I did it on that show. I was on tour actually, and I developed that act specifically for Britain's Got Talent while I was on tour. So I had practiced it a little bit, but actually that's done. And then the Buried Alive stunt, I'd also never performed. It was developed for Britain's Got Talent, and that took me, I don't know, I probably did it twice before we actually performed it, just in a rehearsal. So in some ways you could say, well, 2 days, but at the same time, I've been doing what I do for 20 years. So you could either say, and maybe more, I've been training and practicing since I was 7. So, what is that? 33 years I've been doing this kind of silly stuff. So, there's two answers. There's like 2 days or 33 years.
Are you working on any more or new projects that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you asked me that. So I, just as I was telling you that it's really important to shift and pivot and do different things, it's really hard for me to do a Zoom show in the way that a lot of people are. There are other performers that I'm friends with that are creating shows that people can pay online to see. Very difficult for me to do that, because a lot of the stuff that I do is very large in scale, and so what I am doing, I've created a new company, which is it's an escape room company, but the whole thing works online. So if they exist like a show, so you can pay like $10 for a ticket, and that gives you access. And then what happens is that I am in an environment which I've created, and I have a POV camera, so you see what I see, and you, by typing into a chat, get to give me instructions and tell me where to go and what to do, and I have to navigate my way through this environment in order to get out and not die. And what I realized, I don't know whether you've ever done an escape room before, but the worst thing that's going to happen if you don't manage to get out or you don't solve the puzzles is that somebody's going to come in and say, oh, you didn't do it, here's where you went wrong. But if the public is not in that environment, then we can have real stakes, so the stuff that I'm navigating and the things that I'm going through are dangerous and have very real consequences, and it's your job to help get me through it. So the company is called Live Action Escape Rooms, and we're launching our very first public event next month, and it's going to be called Claustrophobia.
Oh, wow. The next segment on DYW Newsscape, I'm calling Questions from Your Soul. They're inspired by Disney Pixar's newest release on Disney Plus called Soul, and aims to help families at home get through the new lockdown and young people connect on Zoom with their friends. So, Johnathan, could you please tell us, where are you the most happiest just now?
Where am I the most happiest?
Yes.
Well, I think it's probably. So I'm a dad, and I have an 8-year-old little girl. Her name's Milligan, and so really I'm happiest wherever I am with her. But there is a place that's near where I live in Las Vegas, and it's called Red Rock National Park. And I urge you to Google image it, because it's beautiful. There's this massive, sort of huge rock formations that exist. It's almost like a giant adult-sized climbing frame. And so to go there and spend some time sort of seeing if we can get to the top, finding a place and trying to get there is wonderful. And I'll tell you specifically why, is that we spend so much of our time not in the present moment. We're on our phones, or we're thinking about what we're going to do later, or daydreaming the day away. And when you're in a place like Red Rock, you have to be present. You have to be in the moment and thinking about what you're doing, where you're putting your feet, or where you're going, or what you're doing. And if you're not present, then you could slip and fall and hurt yourself. And I think that these days we spend so much time not in the present moment, that going somewhere that actually forces you to do that, I think, is a really valuable experience, and something that we should all do more of.
What are the simplest things that have pleased you throughout this lockdown?
Well, you know what, I pre the lockdown, I was on tour a huge amount. I for the last 6 years, I've just been traveling, and have probably spent no more than a month or two at home consistently for that time, for that 6 years. I'm gone an awful lot. And so actually one of the nicest things has been to be home, and wake up and cook breakfast in my own kitchen, and spend time with my daughter, and all of those good things. So those are advantages, certainly, to the lockdown.
What music would you suggest for the young people to listen to help them get through these January blues?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I think I choose music depending on what I'm doing. If I'm working, then I'll listen to some classical music, because it's not something that you have to really listen to. You can just absorb it, and it can help sort of stimulate you. So I quite like, the minute I'm listening to a lot of Chopin. And then at the same time, my daughter and I, we'll quite often play a game where one of us gets to pick a vibe, and so she'll choose a song, and then it's my turn to choose another song that takes something from her choice. Some aspect of her vibe has to be in my song, and so on. So it's like a little bit of a relay race of song choices, and that's a fun game to play, actually, seeing if you can kind of hit a mood with a song, and also it's a really good way to find new music like that.
Can I ask you, is there something that you're loving just now, like your new project of the escape room?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Can I ask you about something that you're loving, a bit like your escape room project?
Yeah, I love a challenge. You know, the thing that I'm creating with live action escape rooms has never been done by anybody before. You know, I'm really forging new ground. It's a new kind of entertainment, and so you know, that for me is really exciting. I love pushing boundaries a little bit and finding ways to move things forward. And so that's, I think, the thing that I'm most excited about with regards to that project.
Could you please suggest to the young people who are going to be watching this any TV shows or movies that you'd suggest to watch with the family?
Oh my goodness. What have I watched recently that I thought was really good? Well, I'll give you one. There's on I've been watching a show with my daughter. She's 8, which is a superhero thing called Stargirl. We're enjoying that at the minute. That's really good. And then if that's a bit too kiddie or family oriented, what have I been watching? I watched a show called Manhunt, which was really cool. It was about I'm really into sort of true life stories, and Manhunt there are 2 seasons, both different stories, and they're both true. One is about how they caught a guy who was sending bombs through the mail in the 70s and all the way through to the 90s, I think, actually, and how they caught him was really interesting. And then there was another one. The second season is about a guy who set off a bomb or planted a bomb at the Atlanta Olympics, also in the 90s, and how they caught him as well. It's really fascinating. So I'm really into that kind of thing.
And what about movies? Is there any movies that you suggest?
Oh my goodness. I like real, you know, true. It's the same as the my recommendation for Manhunt. I really like true stories, and I like the Founder is a really good movie.
Oh, yes.
It's a story about the guy who was basically responsible for taking McDonald's as a single mom and pop restaurant and making it this global entity, and how that happened, and you know what kind of person that guy was, because he wasn't very nice, and maybe there's something to be said about, you know, the people that are really, really successful aren't necessarily the nicest people. And that's not advocating being not nice, but it's just an interesting thing to be aware of, that if you want to be successful in this world, maybe try and kind of bridge that gap between being sort of so cutthroat and maybe be a little bit benevolent to the people that help get you there.
Who is your inspiration to do the job that you do?
I've got lots of different inspirations for my job. My dad specifically was always very encouraging to me. A lot of my inspiration comes from people from the past that do similar things. You know, because I do a lot of dangerous things, there were performers 100 years ago that were doing the kind of thing that I do, but in a world without risk assessments or health and safety or any of the things that are very restrictive that we live with today. And so if you had a crazy idea, there was nobody that was going to stop you. And so a lot of the time I'll go back and look at the things that people did back then to see if I can kind of come up with a way to update them or make them a little bit more relevant.
How would others describe you?
I think people either say that I'm very brave or very stupid, and and I'm trying to work out which.
What is your greatest achievement on stage?
Oh my goodness, that's a really interesting question. I think some of the places that I've performed, I'm really proud of. I headline shows on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
One of them at the Palace Theatre on Broadway, which is the biggest theatre on Broadway. It's right in Times Square, and Houdini himself performed at that theatre. So that was a pretty cool achievement. I performed at Sydney Opera House and Radio City Music Hall, and on 3 different occasions I've performed in the West End in London. So I think not necessarily specific shows, but the success I've had in performing in specific places has been really amazing.
What has been your greatest achievement on screen?
My goodness. I'm very proud of a lot of the work that I've done on television, and it's usually the thing that I did most recently, and so I think that maybe the last stunt that I did on America's Got Talent, I was really proud of, actually. I did a stunt where I traveled on a zip line, tied up from a burning rope, and I was hanging by my teeth 60 feet in the air. And quite often when you're creative and you have an idea for what something should look like and how it should go, there is a level of compromise. It's never quite what you had in your mind because of this reason or that reason. But that was pretty close to what I wanted it to be.
Can you suggest a way for young people to cope during this time?
Yeah, I think that the thing that we're missing most during this time is connection, is social connection, and actually not just during the lockdown, although the lockdowns made it much worse. But more and more we're becoming insular and not connecting and communicating with each other. And human beings are very social. We exist as part of a group, and so I think it's really important to make an effort to reach out to people and communicate and engage with people. And that is something that you have to actively do. Don't wait for people to come to you and connect. Go out, put it out to the world, ask people how they are, arrange to do something, make to collaborate on something, because those kind of connections, are how the world works in a business sense, but also it's how we're all going to keep sane during this time.
What have you been doing with your family to cope during lockdown?
Really just spending time and playing games and being creative. I've got most of my family's in the UK. So obviously we're separated by 7,000 miles of distance, and so it's actually a familiar environment to be able to communicate with them while I'm. Hang on one second, Aidan. Okay. Sorry, there's my daughter. She's grabbing her iPad. It's very familiar to communicate with my family in this way. But we've been doing all sorts of things. We've been doing sort of weekly quizzes and stuff like that, which are all good fun. And then here, I'm very fortunate actually. Nevada is not nearly as locked down as you guys are. There are a few restrictions. My work is sort of, my performing work it doesn't exist, but here the cases are actually going down, and restaurants are open and gyms are open. So we've been getting out and about, going to Red Rock, climbing to the top and seeing what we can do. And I think people are getting creative with ways of coming up with ways for people to be stimulated without sort of being in contact with other people. The other day, Millie and I went to an exhibition of dinosaurs. There were these massive animatronic dinosaurs that had come to town, and we got to drive through it. It was almost like being in Jurassic Park. We didn't have to get out of the car at all, but we were driving past all of these animatronic dinosaurs. So see what's out there, because not everything has to be so gloomy. Maybe there's things that you can do where you are.
Final question before we wrap up. What is something that you've been missing that you wish you could have done last year?
Traveling. I'm very much a sort of an explorer and travel person, and I didn't really, apart from doing America's Got Talent in LA, I didn't really leave Las Vegas, and I miss that. I miss going to new places and experiencing new cultures. So I'm really excited to do some of that as soon as things get back to normal.
That is all we have time for on DYW Newsscape with me, your host, Aidan, and I just want to give another big shout-out thank you to the wonderful Johnathan Goodwin for giving up his time to give advice to the Moray young people on how to get into his sector of work. You've been watching DYW Newsscape on the DYW Moray YouTube channel. Now, if you live in Britain, remember to stay safe, and remember hands, face, space, or facts if you live in Scotland, and we are all in this together. Good night. Well, thank you for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you ever so much. And you'll never guess what I've got.